Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of your number one talk show, City Talks with Reuben Abati, on your number one lifestyle station, City 1051 FM. On this show, we talk about stories of political and human interest that affect us as global citizens and also as citizens of Nigeria. Today, we'll be discussing the very controversial Electoral Act Amendment Bill and the state of the nation. And as our guide, we have a very special guest. And it is with great pleasure that we have with us here today, Dr. Okey Ikechukwu. Dr. Okey Ikechukwu is a public communications and business strategy consultant, a trainer, a life coach, and also a public consultant. He is the executive director, Development Specs Academy, and a senior fellow at the Nnamdi Azikiwe University. Dr. Okey Ikechukwu holds a Bachelor of Arts degree from the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, and a PhD from the University of Lagos. He has been a columnist with the Guardian newspaper. He's also a columnist with This Day newspaper here in Nigeria. And he has also been in government in various capacities, offering advice, policy advice, and also taking charge of a number of issues. He's an author, he's a journalist, he's a public affairs analyst. If you want to be part of this conversation, you can call us on 0700 1051 1051. You can also leave comments on WhatsApp 090 991 and on social media accounts at City 1051 on Zoom and Facebook. Dr. Okey Ikechukwu, thank you very much for agreeing to join us on this program and to have a conversation around some of the burning and topical issues in Nigeria at the moment. You are welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here for this morning's exchange.
Yes. Well, Dr. Okey Ikechukwu, the big issue has been around the Electoral Act Amendment Bill. We've been on this matter for years now. Ahead of the 2019 elections, the president refused to assent to that same bill 3 times. When Dr. Ahmed Lawan took over as president of the Ninth Assembly, he promised that this would be one of the things he would sort out. And now, in the last few days, we have had this spectacle, this drama, this melodrama, if I may call it that, around the Electoral Amendment Bill. Now, what are your thoughts with regard to how the National Assembly has conducted itself? First, we were told that the agreed upon bill was tampered with, particularly with regard to clause 52 of the bill, dealing with open and secret ballot voting and specifically electronic transmission. Thursday, Friday, we had great drama in the National Assembly. On Thursday, the Senate had its own drama. On Friday, members of the PDP walked out. You, as a public affairs analyst, what do you think is going on?
Well, quite frankly, it's about power politics. It is about power politics, and my take is at 3 levels. At one level, we'll look at the reputation of the National Assembly. At another level, we'll see the Electoral Act as part of the crisis of the political leadership. And on a third level, we look at the decision of the National Assembly and its impact. The primary issue on the table is that if anybody at any point was in doubt about whether the representatives are actually representing Nigerians, the conduct of the senators cleared that doubt. You see, if your station sends me to represent it somewhere outside Nigeria or anywhere at all, What will happen is that for me to take a position on any matter, I must consult your station and its management. But when I go there and take positions without recourse to you, it means I'm representing myself. So, two questions. Question number one, did the senators consult their constituents, in other words, those who send them to the National Assembly, and can therefore be said to be saying what the people send them to say? The answer is no. Question number two, the processes leading up to that decision, did it and does it suggest there was some backroom scheming going on? The answer is yes. So what it has done, in my view, is to totally and comprehensively discredit the National Assembly, discredit the National Assembly leadership, also expose many of the lawmakers as primarily committed to whatever agreements they make in Abuja, pertaining to their political survival rather than the Nigerian state. Moving on to how that affects the citizenry, it only reinforces the misgivings of those who think that this government is really no business of theirs. And let's face it, when I say this government, we're not just talking about the Buhari regime, we're talking about our 20 years of democracy, where most of the important decisions of the nation would seem to be taken without due consideration for national development, its broad impact on the citizenry, the extent to which it will build cohesion, and the extent to which it will even address the future of Nigerian youths. Because if I'm a very young person and I'm watching what's going on in the National Assembly, the question will be, what kind of lessons will I be picking up? If in addition I'm hungry, I'll also be asking myself, these guys are taking steps to survive. Perhaps I should also focus on steps that will enable me to survive, irrespective of morality, irrespective of public good, irrespective of national interest. So to that extent, the issue here then is that a form of unconscious negative mentoring of Nigerian youths is being very robustly carried out by the members of the National Assembly and the political elite generally, to the effect that law and laws need not address national issues, but that once you can organize a conspiracy and they go able to agree with your friends to append your signature to anything you choose to do, that is what governance, leadership, public affairs management is all about. All things considered, it is negative. It is a major retrogressive step for Nigerian democracy after 20 years of a third attempt. It's indicative of an elite that appears not to be learning anything. But if we look at 20 years, it is a conspicuous retrogression out of which no one seems to be embarrassed. And you see that there is disappearing from public space any sense of shame. What, for instance, is the explanation for those who didn't vote? What's the logic behind the position of those who voted for and those who voted against? I believe that this decision of the National Assembly has only thrown open a new vista of perceptions and controversies that are likely to call a lot of things between now and 2023, both for the ruling party and the political elite generally. Because, let's face it, the outcome of that voting and that decision and that bill as passed is not attributable to any particular party. It cut across party lines. It tells you that there's some interest other than national interest, other than electoral purity, other than national service that's behind the content and form of the bill they passed. So those are my initial comments on that.
But Dr. Ikechukwu, I mean, the spokesperson of the Senate, let's start with that. Dr. Senator Bashiru has said that, look, it's misleading to say that the Senate in particular has rejected electronic transmission of results. That what the Senate has done is to rearrange the nebulous wordings of Section 52, subsection 3, or if you like, clause 52, subsection 3 of the bill as proposed. And that, what they are saying is just that the NCC, the National Communications Commission, should have an input into whether results should be transmitted electronically, and that the permission of the National Assembly should also be sought. But there are persons who are saying that within the purview of Section 78 of the 1999 Constitution, that what the National Assembly is proposing is unconstitutional and illegal. What is right here?
First, I share the second view that is unconstitutional and illegal. Secondly, and most importantly, the NCC is a service provider in the matter of network transmission and electronics transmission services, both for NTA when it's broadcasting its news, for service providers, etc. So when you say that INEC will need the permission of NCC, it trivializes a very serious matter. So to the extent that you cannot locate that submission or that proposal in the Constitution is unconstitutional. Some have actually described the proposal as outrightly irresponsible. I may not go that far. Now, to get the permission of NCC and then the National Assembly before the transmission of results, how does that sound to anybody? So you see that I think in the desperate bid to ensure that there's a hold on things, there was no strategy to the desperation. Otherwise, this should ordinarily discredit everybody. So I share the view that it cannot find accommodation in the 1999 Constitution. It does not find accommodation in common sense. It flies in the face of the simple fact that NCC does not have, is not likely to have, cannot under any circumstance be deemed to possess the power being ascribed to it, being inflicted on it, and it being expected to exercise in the matter pertaining to elections in Nigeria. We should conveniently, in my view, dismiss that submission of the spokesperson as mischievous and clearly not calculated to clear the air on this matter.
Well, Dr. Ikechukwu, you are from Anambra State. Correct me if I'm wrong. And
yes, my parents are.
Yes, well, I mean, you are also from there by the effect of, the Chapter 3 of the Constitution on Citizenship. But clearly...
I can reject.
Hello?
Don't worry. No. I say, I can protest against that chapter, but I won't.
Or you probably want to change your indigenship and become a citizen of Katsina State. But very quickly, I wanted to draw your attention to the fact that the Anambra State League of Professionals is called the League of Anambra Professionals, LAP. They have issued a statement signed by Chijioke Okoli, SAN, condemning the fact that when it came to the critical moment for the Senate to take a decision on electronic voting, that the representatives of Anambra State disappeared conveniently. The League of Abia Professionals, they have also issued a statement to say that representatives of Abia State also conveniently chose to go to the toilet at a time they were required to represent their people and ensure that the people of Abia State had a voice. Now, what do we make of all this? I mean, in the case of the Senate, 28 members on Thursday conveniently disappeared, including lawmakers, I guess, from Ogun State, from other states. What's your response to this? Because some people have said those lawmakers who failed the people should be recalled. In fact, in the case of the House of Representatives, the people of Lagos State and other stakeholders have been asking the question, why is it that at this critical national moment, Femi Gbajabiamila, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, thought it necessary to excuse himself from involvement and engagement in an issue of momentous national interest?
Well, Femi's action, if for instance tomorrow they say that the House of Assembly, the House of Reps took this type of embarrassing decision, probably the gentleman is looking at the fact that it will not be reported that he presided over the disgraceful proceedings. That's one angle to it. But on the substantive matter of the reactions, beginning with the League of Anambra Professionals and those from Abia, no, even before that, I would like to have it on record that representatives from nearly all the states of the Federation took this disgraceful position of either being absent or voting against that provision. Secondly, the reaction from LAB, the League of Anambra Professionals, those of Abia and some other responsible individuals and organizations, is a very good development. It's an investment in citizen action prove that people are beginning to say, listen, I need to be heard. We sent you to represent us and you're not doing it. So all of that is a very good development, but they have to take it further. The matter of recalling, this may be a first step, but they must also be ready for the long haul. This is not just to do a newspaper advertisement and think it will end there. No, it will not. We have it on record and our experience confirms it. If you take all the clippings of the sittings of the National Assembly, both the Senate and House of Reps, for the last 20 years, what is a consistent pattern is the poor showing of members during plenary. Most of the time, you have nearly half of the auditorium empty. So that is a fact that our representatives, or some of our representatives, and the National Assembly as an institution has not always had a full house. But again, until people begin to make demands, those they sent on errands will take their time. They'll stop over and play football because those who send them don't seem to be taking their position seriously. So it is a very good development that you have organizations like this reacting and demanding explanation and accountability for those they send to represent them. Once this continues, it will progressively become more and more difficult for people to act in a manner that could possibly be described as irresponsible when they are giving public assignments. So for me, it's a good indication of a progressive, even if mildly instrumental growth in democracy and citizenship consciousness.
Well, but are you worried in any way by the announcement by the National Communications Commission that indeed, they are not in a position to guarantee electronic transmission from any part of Nigeria? And yet this is a country where people, send, they do electronic transfers, they use the internet and all of that. And yet now when it comes to elections, we're being told that, yes, you can vote electronically, but the results cannot be transmitted electronically. And the position taken by opposition parties, particularly the PDP, is that this is a clear indication of an attempt by the ruling All Progressives Congress to rig elections and prevent transparency and accountability in the 2023 general elections. Do you share that view? Although the first major test for INEC will be in your state in November 2021 when Anambra goes to the polls to elect another governor.
No, I'm not really. First, I'm not surprised. Let's even begin with the facts. There is no transmission and integrity of content anywhere in crisis with Russia. So, for the record, we must admit that indeed that challenge is a fact of that there can be, if you like, enemy action in that regard. Secondly, NCC is saying that I cannot guarantee the integrity of transmission. 100% integrity. I remember the release. We had that expression, 100%. It is not saying anything we do not know. Sometimes your text messages get delayed. Sometimes you're cut off. Sometimes your drop calls is a familiar experience. So those are technical things we must admit. But the core issue to place on the table, because if we keep responding to the technical submissions of NCC, we may actually overlook the fact that we have no business having any conversation with NCC on the transition of results. The critical issue on the table is, should this be a matter on which NCC will be taken as an important variable in national conversations with regard to lawmaking? According to the Constitution, the answer is no. So the NCC's position is understandable. Where the worry is that as a nation that's claiming or pretending to be heading towards a new world, a data and, if you like, a digital world, you look at several things. This step is retrogressive. You want everybody to align his or her SIM with BVN and phone number. That means you're heading in a certain direction. You want to promote more of online transactions in banks. That means you're heading in a certain direction. And all of that, you're trying to capture national data, so to say. How does this help you. Then when he came to distributing money, for instance, during the COVID period, or when you want to alleviate poverty, you go and give it in cash. Whereas that's actually the time you are getting, becoming part of the digitized world. So taken all in all, the submission of a critical and substantive issue on the table is, who has business with the transmission of elections? No. What mode of transmission is say that they are meant that we want, and what are the things? It's like now the army telling us, the military and security service telling us, look, we can't guarantee 100% security during elections. That is a fact. Should that then mean that the armed forces and the DSS should then determine whether INEC should have an election? Like NCC, they are service providers. Their own is in the area of security of persons and material. The service being provided by NCC is in the area of what you call virtual content transmission. Let's not mix them up.
Well, Dr. Ikechukwu, there are other issues involved which Nigerians have been concerned about. We've been talking about electronic transmission. We have also seen the spectacle at the House of Representatives on Friday when members of the People's Democratic Party walked out, and yet the members of the APC went ahead and took a decision with regard to electronic transmission. But there is another issue about campaign finance, which is also a very big issue in the light of Section 162 of the Constitution and other relevant sections, Section 160 with regard to the rights of INEC and all of that. But the big issue with campaign finance is this. If you have to be president of Nigeria with 15 billion naira as proposed, or you have to be governor with 5 billion naira, or you have to seek to be senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria with 1.5 billion naira. The truth of the matter is that if you look at the salary of a senator, a governor, or a president the whole year, it's not even up to 15 billion naira. So what are we dealing with here? Because it looks like poor people will never get a chance to rule Nigeria, and rich people, well, they have to fall into a certain category to be able to rule Nigeria. What does this say about the future of democracy in Nigeria?
Well, if we're in a place where the party system works, it is the business of the party to raise the money for its candidates. If you have a candidate who is running for an election, you fund the campaign. That's how it happens at every other place. It doesn't happen here. Therefore, it is expected that the candidate will be the one to fit the bill. The first implication of that is that Nigerian youths, I'm not even talking about salaries, Nigerian youths are summarily excluded from the Nigerian experiment, from the Nigerian reality, from the future of possibility of governing this country. That's number one. Number two, at the level of ideas, it also means, and you know that there's hardly a congruence of ideas and funding anywhere. You may be a very brilliant professor. It doesn't translate into your having the cash. You may be a wonderful policy person. It doesn't translate into you being able to hold public office, except people who are foot soldiers on the ground can leverage it and then put you there because of your capacity. Now, all of these people are excluded. Then you backtrack to about the last 30 years. You ask yourself, who are those who are holding Nigeria's money? You backtrack to the last 20 years. Between 1999 and today, you find that over 60% of Nigerians who have become billionaires are people who have held public office. To that extent, you have created a new political elite, a new financial elite that by their conduct in the last 20 years, you cannot say they represent the best among us in terms of public interest. For instance, after 20 years of democracy, all the major roads in Nigeria are bad as I speak. Among other aspects of critical social infrastructure that were not fixed in all the years of PDP and are still not fixed today. So to that extent, you then find that what will succeed with this new submission or position on campaign financing is consolidation of an exclusionist policy by a political elite that has cornered national finances, cornered the power centers, and therefore want to consolidate and retain that by ensuring that they put in place processes, including financial processes and conditions, that will ensure that either they themselves or whoever they endorse and prefer will retain power in their collective interest. So that the state then becomes a cornered state. Lawmaking then becomes a criminal enterprise, in that laws are then designed primarily to retain and protect and consolidate the existing interests rather than drive public good. And that's what we are seeing. So it's not quite surprising, because if you look at the reflexes, I mean, party primaries in all the parties since 1999, have they been democratic? Whether at the local government, state or national levels? Elections themselves, have we had the integrity of elections since the return of this democracy? Really that you can say our elections are sound the way they ought to be? So if those are the reflexes of those managing the Nigerian state today, this is just another rung on the ladder they've chosen, which is to confiscate the state, model up the processes and procedures, ensure that the preferences and will of individuals triumph, and run the Nigerian state on that template. This is another feather to that cap. Rakishly one cap, all right, but they are not making any mistake. It's not a mistake, it's a conscious and deliberate project. But you see, the misfortune nobody is foreseeing here is that, you see, you can't keep pouring water. You can't keep tapping an egg without it cracking at some point. They are taking too much. They are leaving no space. Their desperation is unbelievable. And the number of those excluded keeps expanding. And when youths and the excluded really see they have nothing to lose, my friend, with all your big car, will you not drive it on Nigerian roads? Your fine house is here, is in your village, is in the city. When hunger compels people to begin to move around, your vulnerability is emphasized by your wealth and display of wealth. So back to the substantive issue. Yes, I'm aware of it. Yes, I think it's a bad sign. No, I don't think it should be retained because of it excludes in particular. It makes nonsense of the not too young to run bill. It makes nonsense of the constitutional provision about age for contesting for presidency. Funding is what political parties and candidates do. Candidates do funding by soliciting voters. Political parties provide funding because they are the party to be in power. All this is being distorted by these kangaroo and intermediate provisions of these recent times.
Okay, Dr. Ikechukwu, well, I'm tempted to digress a little bit because you are from Anambra State, and talk about Anambra because yesterday Anambra State was in the news when the Electoral Commission released the list of candidates.
I thought you were trying to terrorize me with my state.
No, it's not terrorism, but it's just to ask you, what's your take on Anambra politics? But even in Anambra, there's something even bigger than politics. The gubernatorial elections scheduled for November 6th. The whole of yesterday on social media, Anambra was in the news. There was a burial ceremony in Oba. One gentleman called Obikubana, who was burying his mother, and social media went mad. Let me use that word. My apologies if that looks like it's a bit too much. But that was what happened. We saw the Nollywood girls struggling to pick money from swimming pools. And money was used, it was sprayed, it was marched upon, it was, violated, all in violation of Section 21 of the CBN Act, Section 5 of the CBN Act. And but what Nigerians were talking about was about how this is the mother of burials, and how Obikubana had sent his mother definitely to heaven, to the envy of other occupants of heaven. I would like to have your take on that, but maybe you talk about the more serious issue of politics. But are you speaking with me from Oba, where I hear?
I beg your pardon.
I don't know. I mean, the way that event went yesterday, even intellectuals. I saw some intellectuals there who were also struggling
dancing
to
their legs off. I saw that too.
Over to you.
Well, talking about sending the mother to heaven, none of us is in a position to determine that. And I imagine that heaven has to do with being humble and living according to the will of the Almighty. So if vanity is celebrated in the name of the Almighty, you're certainly not worshiping him. But on the substantive issue of what happened in Oba, no, first of all, on the constitutional provisions against the abuse of the Naira, Reuben, we both know that when there are parties, nobody recognizes the Nigerian constitution when the Naira comes on the stage. Because that's on the lighter note. Now, what happened in Oba has two dimensions to it. Some have said that it is the evidence of, that the man has helped a lot of young men who have now become wealthy and millionaires, and that this was the payback time for them, that they really came to honor him in public so that people will see how he has impacted their lives. Nobody will quarrel with that. But the question is, what is honor? What is propriety? What should you do so that the children see you, they say, I want to be like that man, I want to be like that woman? How should you conduct yourself so that we can say that this society is properly focused? And when you see that all those who appear to be of people of substance are also involved in this celebration without any compunction, it gives you a very cold feeling about the moral environment. Because yes, you've helped us, we've become wealthy, we've come to show gratitude at the burial of your mother. There's nothing wrong with that. But if all you helped us to do is make money, from our behavior, people will know you didn't also teach us morals, you didn't teach us values, you didn't teach us propriety, you didn't remind us of our culture, that debauchery is not part of the dignity of a public person, generally. So those are the issues that people will seem to overlook. And there's a lot of celebration, no question about that. The question would be, if society is to develop, this sort of thing, is that what should be happening in every community? Planned celebration of just material wealth. So that is it. But again, you can see that that temperament, that tempo, that inclination has completely overrun the Nigerian society. And when you see that the high and mighty were fully involved, each trying to outdo the other, bring all kinds of money, you ask yourself, is there any future? Because that's silent and unconscious mentoring of a new generation. They want to have a lot of money and do that. And probably the mother lying in the coffin is totally ashamed and embarrassed because she knows the type of upbringing she gave her children. And I'm not talking about his own mother, anywhere. When these displays are made, there are always people, old people, young people, who are sitting on the side, who are watching, who are asking themselves, is this how far we've come on this terrible road? So yes, it has happened, but it will all blow away. Everybody forgets that all the people dying are dancing there, including all of us talking. One day we'll be out of here. What is the position of elders? What's the position of leaders? The people when don't they have priests and pastors? What is the position of those who are the custodians of value? Those are the things that will tell you that society has decayed completely. Where even men who are supposed to be servants of the Almighty tremble at the sight of cash and people who have cash.
Well, Dr. Ikechukwu.
But on the political angle, okay, yes. I don't think you asked any substantive question on politics.
No, I did. I asked you a question about politics to say, what's your take? November 6, 2021 election, gubernatorial election. INEC has published a list. PDP is conspicuously absent.
Several of the parties, which is...
Please go ahead.
Okay, yeah. Well, candidates have emerged from the parties, even if in controversial circumstances. They are not yet sure who will go. But the issue is this. Unless PDP gets its act together, it will be given 24 strokes of the cane again by Obiano, the way he gave it to them in 2019. But Abga too appears to have his challenges. Andy Uba has emerged in controversial circumstances in APC. And if Andy Uba, if they are not careful, may actually be the surprise because he's the only one whose ticket is not controversial. Obiora Okonkwo, who came second in the Anambra PDP primaries, and Uche Kunife, who came third, presents a peculiar challenge that they are not paying attention to. Remember that the idea is that there's a consensus in Anambra for the governorship to come from the south. Now, Obiora is from the central senatorial district. He came second and lost only by 4 votes. Uche is also from central. Uche came third and lost by not quite up to 15 votes. So what does it tell you? It tells you actually that public consciousness in the state has gone beyond that zoning thing. That assuming, for instance, Uche didn't contest or Obiora didn't contest, somebody from Anambra Central will have gotten the PDP ticket. Now, going forward, what is on the table? Unless PDP is able to mend fences, which it is not doing properly at the moment, it is bound to lose the next election. There can be no debate about that. Ozigbo is a good candidate, but they're not going to let him win because of the bad belly. Soludo will make an excellent governor if the issues in Africa allow him. But as it is, all the big boys and girls are chewing up each other. And how it will play out in the end, nobody is quite sure, certainly not me. But the state, has had the last 15 years, if not all of our current democracy, of being almost like the Church of Antioch, where everybody is a prophet and every prophecy is correct by the speaker who has just uttered it.
Well, Dr. Ikechukwu, we're going to start allowing people to make comments and get involved in this conversation. But before we do so, I have a question I would love to ask you, which has to do with the National Broadcasting Commission of Nigeria. Yesterday, the NBC issued directives that media houses should not divulge details. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, the NBC directive that broadcast stations should not glamorize terrorist activities and should not divulge details of, activities related to banditry and terrorism. What's your take on that? And you just mentioned the Church of Antioch. And I have here on the screen Professor Kemi Rutumi, Professor of History, specialist in police history in Nigeria. He says, when is Okey Ikechukwu writing a sequel to Anambra and the Church of Antioch in the light of development scenes? And you yourself, you just mentioned the Church of Antioch. Those two questions quickly so that we can take responses from the public.
The Prof's question, he is mentioning an article I wrote, which is titled Anambra and the Church of Antioch on the back of this day, within the last week. As for the sequel, we are watching developments, and let me give the Nigerian method. Prof, a panel has been set up to determine when I will write the sequel, and when the panel submits its report, I will get my pen.
And then there will be another panel to review the report of the original panel.
And of course, after that, we will talk about the white paper, then I'll write.
And that white paper has to be gazetted.
Wait, now you're talking. So on the NBC thing, you see, Reuben is not new. There was an agreement the government appeared to have on let me not give you into the details. Well, the idea was that, look, let's get journalists not to be reporting the activities of terrorists. Instead, if there's been an activity where attacked a barracks, what you should report is that 6 terrorists were killed, not that this barrack was overrun. So that was going on. So when I was part of a roundtable where that was being marketed as a major move, I said, you're just being ridiculous, because if you tell us there's no terrorism, every day you report that you killed 12, you stopped 1 kidnapping, and we look at activities, we find that you stopped 18 activities that have to do with terrorism, you're still reporting the same thing. So it's delusional to assume that because you're not saying what they did, it creates the impression among the people that there's nothing going on. It's unfortunate that this kind of thinking should exist in government, because when you say don't report, now not reporting does not remove the fact that you're only addressing mainstream media. You cannot prevent anybody from putting up something on, on any of the virtual platforms, even outside Nigeria. So it's a retrogressive gesture. It may be intended to create the illusion of peace and stability. Now, that's not what a government should be striving for if it actually wants to destroy terrorism. And I think it's a mistake. First, it's not enforceable. And the one point the government and many institutions are beginning to overlook is that they are actually populated by individuals who are themselves angry with government, who are themselves not ready to carry out any work, who are working at a time when if you report only 3 times in a week in any ministry or parastatal, you're working very hard. The progressive demobilization of the official Nigerian workforce has been on and has advanced dramatically. But inside the offices of people holding position, there's the illusion that when they make a speech, they're addressing Nigerians. When they appear on NTA in a country where at no time do you have up to 60% of the people with electricity that are talking to Nigerians. And that among those who have electricity, most of them are tuned on to satellite television. So it will have no impact. I can understand the intention is part of information suppression and enlightenment repression, but it's not going to deliver what it is hoped that the measure will deliver, and it's an unfortunate investment in tomfoolery, if I must use that expression.
Okay, at this point, Dr. Okey Ikechukwu, let us take interventions by our viewers, our listeners, and everyone who has been part of this program. You already responded to that comment by Professor Kemi Rutimi, Professor of History at the Obafemi Awolowo University. If you want to be part of this conversation, you can call us on 07001051 1051. On WhatsApp, 09099164403. And also on our social media accounts at City1051 on Zoom and Facebook. Looks like we have a caller on the line. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. Dr. Ikechukwu is here. He's listening to you.
I've moved away from the radio. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
This is our country, the country. So just the last question you asked the professor, that journalists should not report incidents that will keep the society well informed. Just like when the CBN governor asked the banks not to receive a deposit. What is the essence of journalism? It's not reporting what is happening. What is the essence of banking? It's not depositing. It is not depositing dollars. Let me leave that down and come back to the electoral transmission of elections. I wept yesterday when that electoral transmission result was resulted because our leaders behaved like chichidodos. A chichidodo is a bird that hates feces but feeds on maggot that lives in pieces. That's what they did.
You are quoting Ayikoyama. I guess you are quoting Ayikoyama.
Yeah, you're correct.
Yeah.
They're telling us they hate corruption and they want a perfect election. At the same time, they're giving up a corrupted election. Good afternoon.
Okay, Dr. Ikechukwu, that caller is more or less agreeing with you. Do you want to respond to that? Yes. Hello?
Yeah, but it is boiling down to an affirmation of what is a general perception. Failure of leadership, disorientation by those who should focus us, and a general tendency to emphasize everything that will lead us in the wrong direction. So yes, we're more or less on the same page on that. The unfortunate thing is that nobody is embarrassed. You see, it tells you a lot when somebody can do what is blatantly wrong, put one hand in the pocket and is whistling publicly as if nothing has gone wrong. It shows that something terrible will eventually happen. So yeah, I guess I'm on the same page with him in respect of the issues that took place in the National Assembly. Yeah.
I have another caller on the line. Hello, your name, your location, and please keep it simple.
Hello.
Hello, thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Reuben from Sango. Well, I watched with the keen interest the National Assembly on Thursday and Friday. I saw the shame of shame we experienced that day, especially with the transmission of results. I want to ask our doctor there, that with this situation, what do you think that Nigerians, especially we Nigerians, who are really looking forward to see that 2023 would be an election that everyone will adjudge to be free and fair, just like that of most election. What do you think we should do? That's my question to him, sir. God bless Nigeria.
Yeah, I'm sure Dr. Ikechukwu had you very
Yes, I heard him very clearly.
yes.
Before we talk about what to do, let's of course also be sure we understand what the situation is. At the moment, not everybody has accepted that outcome. If you remember, I'm sure you probably saw, I think Ndudi, what's his name now? What's his surname now? Tony's brother. Ndudi Elumelu, yes. He was addressing the journalists and saying that that amendment actually did not take place. He was countered by another person. What I expect is that in the legitimate process of democratic progression, some people might take this to court. The National Assembly may have to sit all over on it, etc., etc. Reuben started by mentioning the steps taken by the League of Anambra Professionals and one other state to challenge and probably require. Yes. So you see, what needs to happen? Your specific question is, what should the citizens do? What needs to happen is that as citizens, people must begin to organize themselves in whatever small groups they are, not in order to riot on the streets, but in order to drive public consciousness, in order to generate a letter that can go out into the public domain, in order among themselves to raise a good draft of a counter explanation, find the money to publish it in newspapers or online, then it becomes part of the political process. What people must not do is this hothouse approach to social transformation. You come out, you're very angry, you walk around the street, destroy a few shops, and you say you're angry with Buhari. That doesn't take anybody anywhere, it doesn't lead to any process. It in fact gives people reason to think that people like you must be kept under lock and key. So what should you do wherever you are? And please don't limit the activism. Today, a lot of people are changing Nigeria for the better on WhatsApp platforms. They come to a WhatsApp platform with 80 members and they propose a solution to Nigeria's problem and they end it by, this is what should be done to save this country. Now, who are you addressing? And by putting that in on WhatsApp, they believe they are making interventions in Nigeria. Set up a committee and put them there. They will not attend any meeting. Ask them to generate any document after a meeting, assuming they attend, it will not come. So activism must be accompanied or guided by realism. That's a proper understanding of the environment, a proper understanding of steps that lead to results, and the stamina to go the long haul. Coming out just to call people names because they're in government doesn't show you're better than them. If something is going wrong, adopt templates that can lead to a sustainable change of the situation. Not just grumbling in beer parlors. No, that will not take anybody anywhere. If, for instance, you have in all the states the type of action mentioned by civil society, community-based organizations, a growing discomfort will arise about misconduct in public office. But for as long as people can do whatever they like and get away with it, the show will go on. So do something where you are, but get it into the relevant context outside where you are so that others' voices will be joined to yours.
Okay, we have another caller on the line. Please, your name, your location, and please keep it very brief.
Yeah, my name is Bidemi, calling from Satellite.
Please go ahead. Dr. Ikechukwu is listening to you.
His voice is quite low. Can he do something about that?
Concerning the National Assembly on the election vote being decided on, they really sure.
Sorry, he's not as clear.
Volume, could you turn down the volume? Could you turn down the volume of your radio so that Dr. Ikechukwu can hear you clearly, please?
Okay. Now, if Femi Gbajabiamila and some other representatives can leave the chamber or the National Assembly when sensitive decisions were made or is about to be made, I think it's show of shame. In a country, we found ourselves like this. If electronics is not working, I think what is going to work? Corruption as it may. Hello, are you listening?
Yes, but you need to turn down the volume of your radio.
It's not so clear.
You can't be talking to us on radio and at the same time you are listening to radio. Just turn off the volume of your radio, and then you can quickly go ahead. We don't have much time. Hello. Okay. Looks like we didn't make much progress with that. But I see that there is another question here. Uh, this person, Dr. Abiodun Adeniyi, who is a very regular participant on this program, says, Dr. Ikechukwu, you are seen as a prominent member of the Grammar Republic of Nigeria. Well, that's a new republic on me. I didn't know there was a Grammar Republic. This is because people like you and Dr. Abati are believed. Just wait a moment. I'll figure that out. I believe to be speaking the grammar, which small boys, why small boys are squandering the cash everywhere, like they are doing in Oba, Anambra State this weekend, at the burial of the mother of one of their own. Do you think that there can ever be a meeting point, in an increasingly Nigerian world of consumerism? Well, I don't know what it means by that.
Who is speaking grammar?
Well, I mean, you are here speaking grammar when you should be in Oba, also spraying cash.
Anyway, first of all, there has always been a meeting point between cash and grammar. Historically, that's the whole point of godfatherism. In the days of Awo, Zix, Ahmadu Bello, Aminu Kano, these are men whose notion of what is good for the society made them to monitor young men and young women in order to put them in position. The Bola Iges of this world, the MIO Paras, it's not because they had money. It was other people's money that put them forward because they had capacity. Now, the crisis today is that nexus has been disrupted completely. And I will touch on that. But on the matter of Oba, there's a point we need to note about what's going on in Oba today, so that people don't maintain a certain illusion, or what happened in Oba, so people don't maintain a certain illusion about wealth. Ask yourself, go and take that video, watch it from beginning to end, as many as you can get. Ask yourself, how many of these people displaying money can sit down and write a check of 300 million, and if you ask them to write a check of another 100 million, they will not scratch their heads before writing it? How many of them, that's the first group, how many can write a check of 100 million and not feel uncomfortable subsequently? So, you see, how many of them can go and buy private jets and remain airborne for 6 months? So when you have this little, be able to pick your bills, be able to spend probably 200 million building a house, you have $1 billion, 2 or 3, or even 5 feet away somewhere, it does not make you wealthy in the sense in which that illusion is being celebrated by those who spread money. Who spread money? No, it doesn't. And so you look at it, oh, this person has made a lot of money. Just sit down calmly, relax, ask yourself this. This person I'm looking at now, does he have up to 25% of Dangote's wealth? The answer is no. Go and sit down. That's not happening. But the panic, the illusion, oh, man, these are the ones who have the money. Please, have mercy on me. You can only pay your bills just like the rest of us, but you've taken the extra trouble of procuring infrastructure that has made life impossible for you, because you now have about 18 cars and 5 drivers, out of which you use one about once every 3 weeks. So you have put your name actually as the heading under which people pick up livelihood, and you have become a thing. You are not loved as a person, but you're valued as a means, as a bottle of Fanta where people can put their straw and drink. And they call you names, and you mistake that for love. Now, that's not the same thing as saying that wealth is wrong. On the contrary, if you say wealth is not wrong, please, you remove your clothes, throw them away. When you don't have money to buy food, go and hang yourself. But we make a distinction between necessity, decency, and debauchery. Those are 2 different things. Part of what is evidence of genuine wealth and grooming anywhere in the world is a certain sense of personal dignity, proper conduct in public. It is when you get drunk, when you're not totally in control of your faculties, that you do the sort of things we now celebrate as what normal people do. Check anywhere. But that's a matter for another day.
Well,
As for Adeni, who has a question, we leave grammar.
Well, Dr. Ikechukwu, were it not for the fact that it rained heavily in Lagos yesterday, I know some people who also wanted to go to Oba, particularly at the point when one girl was showing 3 bags of money that she had collected from just, being at Oba. And there were people who were told were looking for their girlfriends and wives. And they were wondering whether they had relocated to Oba to go and collect money. We can talk about the law, we can talk grammar, but, what happened in that state yesterday was something else. We have another caller on the line. We take that caller, and then we'll move on quickly to close the program. Hello, thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon, Dr. Abati, and good afternoon, our guest. You have to tell us by calling from Maui, Ogun State.
Yes, thank you.
I want to ask a simple question, and that is about the future of Nigeria. Now, Nigeria is the poverty capital of the world. The government is going to borrow another $8.6 billion, 490 million euro. We have already high loans piled up, debt piled up. Then we have infrastructural deficit, and the future looks very, very, very bleak. What is COVID-19 is here again, and we still have leaders who are still battling with just election. Is democracy all about election? And if at the end of the day we have election in 2023, somebody becomes the president, what are we actually looking for as the future of this country? PIB is still controversial. All is going to get off the economy, global economy very soon. We are still battling with all of this. I want to ask you, where is the future of this country? How can we reverse the negativities of this country in terms of poor health, poor education, poor killing every day? And the government is even telling not to even report that again. And you, Dr. Abati, are not really hammering on that. That is your constituency. Please, I want to ask again, where is the future? Where lies the future of this country? Good morning, sir.
Yes, thank you for joining us. Dr. Ikechukwu, Quo Vadis, Nigeria. That's his question.
Well, I will say that when you see a vehicle that's going downhill and it doesn't have brakes, it must hit the bottom of the valley first of all. So the future of Nigeria is that we are heading to the valley. We have not reached there when you have the kind of thing you're seeing in public domain. And we're likely to reach there with this government because you must, like you've mentioned, the borrowings. If you borrow money in order to take a chieftaincy title, you borrow money to marry another 8 wives, and you borrow money for the regalia for all the ceremonies, you're finished. Now, all the borrowing we've been doing is for consumption. You're giving it out. You say there's trader money. Oh, there's the other one to stimulate entrepreneurship. There's the one to farmers. There's palliatives. You spend 200-something billion to poor families. Consumption does not lead to wealth creation. There's no investment in wealth creation. And then more recently, 97% of our resources went into debt servicing. Somebody paid you 10,000 and you spend 9,700 paying those you're owing. After paying, you don't have enough money to transport yourself home. That's the country in which we are today. All the borrowing has been eaten. It's not put into using to plant corn so that you sell the corn later. And let us note that this pattern is not new. If you go back to 1983, when the current president was the military ruler, that's when you had the essential commodities drive. People are not seeing the connection between that. This government is focusing on ration sharing, not production. On giving arms, not investment. On spending to pay people's salaries, not investment in the food, in what will bring the price of food down. And so there's the illusion of governance, but there's no governance going on because all the big expenses are going into what gives contracts to the elite, not what provides anything to the common man. So if you're talking about future, my frank view, and I may be mistaken, is that you have to wait. My dear brother who spoke, it will still get worse. I have no doubt about that. And so we wait for that to happen. It will get worse than this before it shoot back. when you have a lead behaving like this, it's obvious that at some point they will encounter a brick wall that will shatter some and wake some up. Then a gradual climb back the hill will begin.
Well, Dr. Okey Ikechukwu, I see that we still have more callers on the dashboard, but we have to call it a day at this point. And what remains is for me to thank you very much, Dr. Okey Ikechukwu, for taking time out to join us on City Talks with Reuben Abati to discuss all these important issues about our country and the future of our country. And I also like to thank all our callers and those who reach out to us on Zoom and Facebook. Remember, the conversation does not end here. You can still reach out to me on my social media account at Abati1990 on Instagram and at City1051 on all social media platforms. For those of you who tuned in late, no need to worry. You can visit YouTube page City1051 to watch the entire show shortly. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button and leave comments. And don't forget also to tune in next week at noon for another exciting edition of City Talks. My name is Reuben Abati.